Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Victoria, otherwise known as Lone Wolf Knits Online, and this is my little channel here where I talk about everything that I have been making. Today I have finally caught up with all of my finished objects with y'all, and I'm down to works in progress. And it doesn't feel like I've made a lot of progress, but I have to remember that most of the things that I'm working on or trying to spread out throughout the year, if you're have been on some past episodes recently with me, you know I'm trying to finish all of my whips from years past, and a lot of those whips are sweaters. Like the majority of them are sweaters. I think it's like 7 or 8 total sweaters, and that's a lot of sweaters. So they take a lot of time, and especially some of the patterns that I was working on, of course, they became long-term whips because of how long they were taking, or I got held up with a specific, part. So there's all sorts of different reasons why they became whips, long-term whips, as opposed to finally getting finished. And like I mentioned last time, it's actually really good for me to go back and look at those and work through them or decide to frog them, because I just forget when they're not right in front of my face and I'm not seeing them every day and reminding myself to work on them. But I'm also trying to give myself some grace because I had a lot of unexpected travel these past 3 years. Life has been crazy, so just having the chance to finally sit down and go through all of them and really commit to finishing them has been really helpful for like my headspace and my motivation, honestly. So today I don't have any finished objects to show. I've just made a lot of progress on some of these things that I have been trying to finish for a while now. So I thought I'd take you through some of those and talk about where I'm at with them right now and how they're working out. And yeah, so I have a couple of works in progress that I'll start to go through here. So my first one, I think I've talked about this when I first started this like podcast thing that I've been doing. This is the Big Cozy Cardi by Andrea Mowry of Drea Renee Knits, and it's going to be really hard to show you like the full thing because it's so big, so I'm just going to kind of show you the little bits and pieces, and then when it is finally done I will for sure show you it on me, but it's kind of not in a state where I can actually put it on yet. So here's some of the body fabric, and I actually decided to knit mine inside out. So like technically this is the inside of the cardigan, but I like this texture better. It's kind of like a knit and purl textured pattern. The side that's supposed to be facing out, which for me is the inside, is this, which is a little more like, it almost looks like a broken rib. But I just liked the texture, like from far away, you can kind of see it, just like this texture to me is a little just better suited my preference. So I decided to make this the outside, and for this cardi, you basically knit this giant lighter colored, in my case, yellow panel. It's a giant rectangle, and you just knit back and forth for a really long time to get to the end, and then you pick up you sew the little shoulders together, or sleeves I guess, which create the shoulders, and then you start this collar that I'm working on right now. And the collar, so I should mention the yarn too, of course, but as you can see the collar is in like a lace weight. Mine is like a Surrey alpaca called Odang, from Farmer's Daughter Fibers, and so it's really fluffy and soft, and as you know, if you've been here for a while, that has kind of been my favorite yarn recently. I just really love it. Like I've come to find out that I can be kind of itchy with like any kind of alpaca, or sometimes any kind of fuzzy stuff, but for some reason the Surrey alpaca does not do that to me. Mohair can sometimes do that to me, but yeah, I'm just loving the Surrey alpaca for some reason. It does give the texture of this like plain stockinette. It does give it a little bit of like a nubbly texture, or like a rustic texture, if that makes sense. I mean, both of these yarns are kind of rustic. I can kind of put them side by side, and maybe that's a little easier to see. But they're both kind of a little textured. And so for the yarns I used for these, this was one of those projects where I really wanted to use the yarn that was called for in the pattern. So for the lighter colored main body yarn, it's Sky Dance by Brooklyn General Store. And it's their Ursa Minor base, which is Cormo, Merino, and Romney. And what can I say about this yarn? I think that the yarn choice for this was what ended up holding me back from finishing this project for so long. And the reason for that, and I'm not trying to blow up any yarn folks, but just trying to be honest with my review and my making, I did not enjoy working with this yarn. I think I could have if the dye was set properly, but the dye was not set properly on this yellow, and you can even see, like from far away, I didn't alternate skeins, and it's really obvious where I changed. The dye was not really put in this yarn evenly. There's a lot of streaking that's happening down here, and up here it gets a lot more like yellow. So I just wasn't happy. Like, I ordered all this yarn at the same time, and I was super excited to try it and to get it, but I just wasn't happy with how it was knitting up and how the dye just bled all over my hands, and it also wasn't like fully clean, if that makes sense. Like, I know some yarns, especially this is a more rustic yarn, this is a more like, I would call it hand spun quality yarn, where there's a little thick and thin. It's not like a perfect skein that you would get from like a big box store. Totally get it, but there were also a lot of breaks in this yarn, and it was not spun, in my opinion, for, I don't know, it's a worsted spun yarn, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't say it on it, but it feels like a worsted spun yarn. And I wasn't happy with it, especially for the price that I paid for it. So kind of a bummer. Would I try this yarn again? Yes, maybe if I saw it in person, and got to like pick my skeins and make sure that the dye was properly set on them. But yeah, it was kind of a bummer. I'm sorry, Brooklyn General Store. I love a lot of the stuff that they sell, so I don't know, win some, lose some. So that kind of took me a while to finish that main body section, because I literally just kept having to wash my hands a lot, and it's yellow, so like when the dye got on my fingernails and stuff, it just looked like I had smoker's hands, and I don't know, it just wasn't enjoyable for me. I love this color, but not on my nails. Anyway, the main body piece is finished, and now I'm on this collar. And again, I really thought the collar would take less time than it actually ended up taking me, because it's basically like 2 full skeins of the Odang yarn, which is a like lace to fingering weight yarn, really more lace. And it's sticky, you know, it's kind of a stickier fiber. So once I started to actually get away from like my hands having to touch this, it went a lot faster, but this is still a lot of knitting. I think you pick up like 400 plus stitches. So they're all kind of shoved on here. And it's taking forever to like get these last, I think I have like 2 inches left where this marker was when I placed it. So 1 more inch to go, and ball of yarn is all the way over there. I don't feel like getting up, so long story short, I think it's going to take almost 2 full skeins of that yarn to complete this. And then I have to just finish up the sleeves here, Like there's a little short sleeve section, because it's kind of like a bat wing, like it's really drapey, probably up until like about this section of forearm is where the actual sweater ends and the sleeve begins. So it's not really that long. It's maybe like 2 socks worth of sleeve knitting, like cuff sock portion. So at least that's how I'm thinking about it, because I have in the past tend to just languish on Sleeve Island a whole lot. So I'm hoping that once I finish the collar, I bind that off and I just immediately start the sleeves, that I should be done within a couple of days after I start the sleeves. And then I will reblock it, and hopefully all of the dye will finish exhausting out, because I tried, when I blocked the main panel, I tried to get the water to run clear, and no matter what I did, I could not get that water to run clear. I tried really hot water. I was careful obviously not to felt it, because especially a woolen spun yarn, you don't want to agitate that or felt it accidentally. I tried a little bit of vinegar, I tried a little bit of citric acid, but nothing is keeping this dye in there, which again is just such a bummer. And because I bought this yarn years ago, I started this whip I think in 2023. So because it was so long ago, I didn't feel like I could reach back out to Brooklyn General and ask them for any kind of refund or store credit. It was just too long ago, and also I'm just not the kind of person that does that. So hopefully it was just a one-off and not everyone else's experience with this yarn, because I really did want to love it. I especially love the label, like it's so cute. And yeah, I do really love Brooklyn General Store. I've bought yarns from them before, like I've said, and I've never had an issue like this, so maybe it was just a fluke. It was bought like obviously during their big push for this sweater, so I'm sure that they maybe were just overwhelmed with the volume of orders that they got. I want to say it was a pre-order actually, so yeah, maybe there's just something that happened there. But anyway, that's the story. And for this sweater, I'm making the size 3. I am usually a size 3 to 4 in Andrea Mowry's patterns in sweaters, mostly because of my bust size. I'm like about 40-ish here or there bust. But because this sweater was so big and overwhelming, I'm a petite person, like I'm maybe 5'2" on a good day, so I didn't want it to be like super voluminous and then just overwhelm me. So I chose to stay with the size 3, and just the initial try-ons that I've done so far, that seems to be a good choice. So happy with that, and we'll be so happy to get this done. My goal is to finish this by the end of February, so we'll see. It's February 20th right now, so gotta get on this. But that's the big cozy cardie. I'm also excited to have a cardie in my wardrobe, because I don't tend to wear them as often as I think that I will when I buy like a store-bought one. I don't know, it just doesn't work with my style of like usually really loose t-shirts. But that's why I chose this cardigan, and why I first actually fell in love with it was just felt like it was more of a jacket and super comfy, cozy, like could go with something underneath and not feel like you have like little sleeve marks or whatever for like a more form-fitting cardigan. So excited to have that in my wardrobe, and that is what's drawing me to finishing it. I think it's also a combination of like, I want to try to get the sweaters out of my queue that are super wintry or fall themed, because I know I'm going to start wanting to work on the summery stuff and like the spring stuff. And I do have some of those whips already in my baskets over here. I just keep like all my bags and baskets over here with all of my whip stuff. So I definitely know I have some like summery tees and things to finish, and those I'm going to want to finish when the weather starts getting warmer. So I'm trying to get all of the cold stuff out of the way now. Plus it's actually pretty cold here right now for us, Pacific Northwest. It's about 42 degrees today, Fahrenheit, and it's cold. It's cold. Our heater's also not working. I mean, our ones in our rooms do, but not our main like mini split that we have in the house. So it's a little chilly. My next whip is it's another granny square blanket. You guys probably won't be surprised. if you've been here for a while, I have been just really obsessed with granny square blankets, and this is another one that I started actually in December. I believe I started December 1st, and all of the blankets that I've made, well, some of them have been just like literally a giant granny square, like you start in the center and work your way out. This one is very similar, except I'll try and show you the middle here. It's getting so big, it's almost done. You can see the middle here, this like longer rectangle section. So I cast on or crocheted on, I don't know what the word is for when you start a crochet project, but I started right here in this middle section, and so I made a shape that was like basically a rectangle, and then I started increasing around all 4 of those corners, and so it is vaguely rectangular, but not as rectangular as I was expecting. It's still kind of a little bit more square, and I'm not sure why that happened. But I think this blanket is from the same woman, tutorial lady that I followed here on Instagram. I'm gonna have to put her, like, the link to that below, but I did her giant granny square blanket, and then this is called her zippy rectangle blanket, I believe. And so obviously very, very Christmassy, but not overly so, I would say. I mean, like, yes, it's Christmas. I wanted it to seem Christmassy. I wanted this to be my Christmas blanket that I take out every year and just enjoy as a special seasonal blanket. So I also just had a lot of Christmas yarns, which feels kind of bizarre to me, but I think it was a combination of some Handspun is in here. Let me see if I could find the row. This row right here was Handspun. And it was one of my first Handspuns. Here it is again with like some green. Gotta get my face out of the way so it can focus. This green right here. So it was one of my first skeins of Handspun that I had done, and didn't realize that I accidentally made like a Christmas type skein. Let me see if I actually have the rest of it. Yeah. So it fooled me with some of the blues that were in here. I really just didn't think that this was going to turn out to be a Christmas yarn. It was like very much, those blues were really prominent. I saw the greens, and I just thought like the reds were kind of more orangish. But obviously when I spun it up, I was like, oh, I made Christmas yarn. So I had this whole skein of kind of, it's not bad, but it's just not super good Handspun, I would say, because I was a beginner and learning. So I was like, where can I use this Handspun that I don't really want anything else with it. I also had some like partial skeins of like some Christmas sock yarn that I had made, plus obviously some leftover bits and pieces from other sweaters. You may notice that one in my Nebula, my Nebula sweater, with this Surrey alpaca that I've been loving recently. A couple other things of like random mohair bits and bobs, and I had a lot of this like cotton red yarn, this bright red yarn. It's actually like probably a worsted weight. Most of the rest of the blanket is fingering weight, but if something was a little thicker of a yarn, I maybe only did 2 double crochets instead of 3 clusters of double crochets. But I'm really, really happy with how this is turning out. And initially I was like, oh, let me just kind of, I'll finish it when I have enough green and red yarn left over. I tend to want to do the full border all the way around of the same color, but now it's so big that it's getting to a point where like I'll probably use this whole skein, the rest of it, for this next row. So it takes a lot of yarn to get here, and it almost requires a full skein, or like at least I would say 3/4 of a skein at this point. So it's getting a little harder to find yarn to finish this with, but it really only needs, I would say, like a couple more rows and it's going to be done, because it's basically the size of me right now. And again, I'm not gonna get up and do all that stuff. I'll probably, if I can, I'll throw in some B-roll of just like grazing over this so you can really see all the textures, because it is very textured. I really love making these blankets. They do truly feel like a piece of art to me, and so I'm excited to have this one finished and then put away for the holiday season, because I will forget about it, and then I will open up my Christmas decorations and be like, oh yeah, I have this blanket that I made. So I'm excited. I have probably, I do still have a decent amount of Christmassy type yarns that I'm using for this project. So some of these are not for this project specifically, but like, you know, lots of random bits. Some red in here actually that I just added, so I think I should have enough to finish. So that's exciting. And the last whip knitting or crochet that I will talk about is my sundial tee. So I started this over the summer. I just really need to finish the bottom, do the ribbing, seam up the sides, and then there's like maybe 2 or 3 rows of like a little cap sleeve here. So this is the front, obviously, and as you can tell, I decided I wanted to add some length because my bottom piece is back here and it's a little shorter now, but in general, I love how this turned out, and I'm very excited to get it done. I did this as a test knit for Wool and Pine, the designers behind this sweater, and I decided that I also wanted to use Handspun in this project. So it's basically just, it's mosaic color work, which is my favorite and really the only kind of color work that I enjoy doing. Here's the Handspun. And I have like a lamp here that's kind of warm toned. So in person, this is definitely less warm. Here it is, like back here in the natural light. I'm trying to block out my face, sorry. Yeah, I really loved spinning this up. This was from Edgewood Fiber Studio, I believe. And it's a 2-ply, which is a favorite of mine. I just really love how it turned out. I'm not usually a red berry person, but I really enjoy the little bits of orange in here, and I do find that I really love all these colors together. I'm trying to break outside of my like cool toned things and move into like some warmer, some reds. So I'm really excited to finish this, and it's really pretty close to being done. So I did maybe one full pattern repeat this, you know, recently, this past like 2 weeks since we've last spoke, and so I've made a little bit of progress. And what's nice about mosaic knitting, if you don't know, is that you never have to hold more than one yarn at a time. So when you're knitting a row, it's only one yarn, and you're just like slipping the stitches that are in the other color. And that's what kind of like creates this pattern. You can also see like my floats on the back, or what you would call a float, but I'm not actually floating any yarn here. These are literally all just like slipped stitches. Hopefully that comes across. But that's why I like mosaic knitting. The other thing I kind of like about it is when you're working back and forth with like a knot in the round, you know, or working flat, you don't have to purl anything. So it's just knit, 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 slipping in between, and you never have to purl. So another reason why I love it. And actually, now that I'm talking about it, I think I was holding it backwards. I think I had the front and back mixed up. So yeah, they're actually, now that I'm looking at it, it's basically the body is almost fully done. And like, I didn't completely want a much longer torso than this. So I think we're pretty much there. I think we're ready to bind off and do, well, not bind off, I gotta do the ribbing on the bottom. but I'm really in love with this sweater. I had so much fun making the wrap version, which was also done in Handspun and a white contrast color. The white that I'm using in this is literally just undyed yarn. I don't know if I have like the tag with me of what it is, but it's literally just like a slightly off-white. It's making it look a lot more yellow with this light that I have here, but it's white. So that is my sundial tee, and this is a spring one, right? So like I am excited to finish this and start wearing it. It's still warm enough to wear in these like in-between weathers, but I'm really looking forward to having it. So very excited to finish this finally. And now if I'm able to finish this one and my big cozy cardi, I will be very well on my way to being on track to finish all of my whips this year. I'll actually be like way ahead of the game because I technically already finished 4 whips, and I was trying to set a pace of doing about 2 per month. So go me. Last thing I wanted to talk about was some spinning that I'm working on. So I am working from this fiber. I have a little bit of it here in a little nest. It's so beautiful. There's lots of like oranges and pinks, and the blackish color is kind of like more of a black purple gray, sometimes a little blue looking. So it's really a dynamic dye. I love that there's bits of white showing. Sorry, it's not wanting to focus. This is from a dyer called Ypsi Fiber Studio, YPSI, and she's based out of Michigan. Here's her very cute colorful tag that's upside down. Focus. And so this one is called Bubblegum Accident. There's the makeup of the fiber on the back there. And it's a 19.5 micron merino. All that means is like the softness of the merino, basically. This was a 4-ounce braid, and I'm pretty sure I might even have another 4-ounce braid of this one, but I'm looking at my fiber stash, which is all over there and completely disorganized. So this was a stash spin, which is, again, I'm trying to focus on only using what I have. So I was dying to get this done. I was really distracted by all of the fiber that I got for Long Dog Yarns like club, and so a lot of my like stash fiber is still just like in my burning queue of things that I really want to use. And this was just staring at me, so I just like grabbed it, pulled it out of my shelf, and just spun it up. So this is my first single. It's gonna be a 2-ply. Are you surprised? I have just been obsessed with 2-plies. And you can really tell like there's a lot of variation in this braid color-wise. So there's lots of like lights and darks. So the way that I fiber prepped this was I divided the braid vertically in half all the way down, and then I divided it further into I think like 3 or 4 different little like nests, and I like wrapped up the nests exactly the same way, so like always from the bottom to the top with the bottom in the middle, and then I'm always using the very end that's sticking out to spin. And so I take whatever quantity of those halves of little nests that I made, and I spun those each fully onto one bobbin, and that counts as 1 ply. And then I spin the other nests from the other giant thing that I tore apart in the beginning. Hopefully this is making sense. And then I apply those 2 together. So ideally, a lot of the colors should kind of match up. They'll still be variegated in the sense that like it's moving from all these different colors, but the idea and the plan was that it's not as barber poled as some of my other skeins have been in the past, where I'm not really paying attention to where the colors lined up, and it's more random and kind of like marled looking. So that's my plan with this, and I'm just really happy with how it's turning out. Like, oh my gosh. It's a very typical spin for me, probably about lace weight single, so hoping for about a fingering weight when I'm done. And I'm spinning this on my Fantasia, which you can kind of see right back here. And I'm onto the second ply. So there's really not a lot on this ply or on this bobbin yet, but I'm filling it up. I think I have 2 more of these, and then I get to ply them together. So for the whole process, I do actually ply on my spinner, my wheel. I don't use an e-spinner for this. I only use my wheel. I've found over the years, like a lot of people, when I first started spinning, they were like, oh, it's so much easier to spin, to ply on your e-spinner, like an electric spinner. And what I found was that I actually preferred plying on my wheel, even though I don't like the Lazy Kate that's on my wheel. It's a little loud. But I enjoy spinning the plies together on my wheel versus in the e-spinner. And I think the reason why I like that is because as a beginner-ish spinner, I've only been spinning for about 2 years. I'm still not in a place where my spinning is completely consistent all the way through the skein. Like there's just some parts where it's slightly overspun or slightly underspun. And I find that when I'm plying on a wheel, my ability to massage those differences is a lot easier when I'm controlling how much I'm spinning with my feet versus the automatic, always exact same speed of the e-spinner. Hopefully that makes sense. But I wanted to share that tip because I feel like it just ran contrary to what a lot of folks that I was listening to were saying, and I never heard anyone talk about that aspect of it and how plying on a wheel might actually be better for beginners because you can control the speed that you are applying. And so how this works out in reality is like, as you're spinning, if there's a section that's really overspun, as in your singles are very tight and there's like little corkscrews happening, you can spin the ply the 2 overspun singles together. You can ply those a little bit tighter, like spin faster basically. And that helps to kind of relieve, because the yarn is being spun in the opposite direction, it kind of self-corrects for some of the overspun aspect of it, because when you're plying, you are plying in the opposite direction that you spun the singles. So it's kind of undoing some of that twist. And it also works opposite. If you have like some underspun parts, you can kind of just spin those a little slower so that you're not taking out too much of that twist and it's not making the problem worse of the underspun area. Again, hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if I'm describing it in a way that makes sense in your brain, but hopefully I am, because I feel like that's my little pro tip that I've noticed between working with, I work on my wheel a lot more now than I used to, but I started out with an e-spinner, so I didn't really have any like frame of reference for what I preferred. And I really thought for a long time I was plying on my e-spinner, and I was like, okay, this is the way that everyone does it. But I just found that my skeins came out a lot better when I was plying on my wheel. So that's my tip. And that's all I have to show you today. So I hope that you have been making beautiful things in 2026. I hope that you are inspired, and I'm really excited for what this year has to offer. I feel really good about my plans for this year and not overcommitting to things, and really just focusing on finishing these whips. So I want to pat myself on the back for actually not casting on all the new beautiful things that are trying to get my attention right now. I think in next week's video, I will try to talk about some of the things that are like my non-whip goals, or maybe I'll go through a few more whips, but also talk about like my 2026 knitting plans. I know it's February, end of February already by the time I would get to that video, but Here, I have found, I'm 35. I have found that setting super hyper crazy yearly goals and trying to go all hard in January is a quick way for me to just fail, because as a perfectionist, if I don't immediately nail it and stay on it every single day, I feel like a failure. And then that fail feeling just prevents me from moving forward. So I kind of just like die out really quickly with my goals for the year. And so instead, I've been trying to really find a balance between pushing myself and not overexerting myself, and allowing myself the grace to like work up to those bigger goals. Hopefully that resonates with you. I think it was really important for me to learn, because I get a lot more done when I'm not trying to fit myself into a super perfect, pristine box. So we're kind of rolling into the new year with all my goals and things that I want to do, and we're not taking ourselves too seriously. Like, we got to start on January 1st. But I did for some things. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Sorry. Anyway, that's all I have for you, and I hope you'll join me next time. Please subscribe or like this video if you enjoy my content. It does really help me grow my little channel here and helps me keep making these videos. I feel so salesy when I say stuff like that, but it does really help. So thank you so much for your support if you have followed me already, and I hope to catch you on the next one. Talk soon.